welcome to the August edition of Our Faith, Our Diocese. I'm Dan Gallagher. A few weeks ago, 25 young men from around the diocese gathered at Misericordia University in Dallas to take part in a special retreat known as Quo Vadis. During the course of that time, they had an opportunity to learn a little bit more about their faith, as well as discern God's call in their lives. Ryan, I've had the opportunity to talk with some of the young folks that attended Quo Vadis, and I've heard nothing but good things. But why was that such a special event?
Well, Dan, I think one of the things that made Quo Vadis so special was the fact that we were able to have, it was about 25 young men, high school age guys from all over the diocese get together for a few days. There was a lot of fun, a lot of camaraderie, but also we were able to pray together. We were able to reflect on our life's vocation, to try and begin to see where God is calling each of us in our lives. So it was a real special few days that we were able to have the fun, but also the spiritual component. And I also think it was really great that the guys were able to see seminarians and priests from our diocese, to see them in a whole new light, that they were able to relate to them. We were able to play games together, to pray together too, but just to kind of take us off the pedestal they might have put us in their minds, and to begin to say, I think I could maybe see myself in this role. So from that end, it was very positive for me as a seminarian to share some of my life with these young guys, and hopefully for them to be able to think and to discern that maybe this is something they're called to.
Is it a rewarding feeling for you knowing that maybe in some small way you might have planted a seed and maybe have facilitated their vocation to the priesthood?
Sure. I think it was Oscar Romero who said, you know, we plant these seeds and sometimes we don't have the benefit of seeing them blossom and grow. And that's kind of the act of faith that we do in any vocational work, is you're planting seeds and you're just relying on the Spirit to help cultivate and grow these seeds. And I think back to my own experience in high school. You know, at that point I wasn't ready to enter seminary, but I had a good pastor and some people who were supporting me and just planting those seeds. So like you said, hopefully in a small way during Quo Vadis, just in those informal conversations, but also in part of the programs that we were doing, the team building, the praying and the reflecting, hopefully, you know, we were planting seeds in these guys.
Well, I'm Bill Beachko. I'm a seminarian for the Diocese of Scranton, and the past few days I've been at Misericordia with a group of Quo Vadis, which is 25, almost 30 young men from around the diocese of high school age, and all I could say is it's been such an inspiration for me over the past few days to be with them and talk with them and to see that even in high school they're asking these profound questions, that the faith is still alive in this diocese, and they're asking the deep questions of where is God, who is God, what are they doing, what do they want to do with their lives, and what does God want for them. It's just been great for my formation to be with them, and I hope that the seminarians had an impact on them as well.
Rob, I've heard nothing but good things about Quo Vadis and that experience earlier this summer. What do you think it is? Why was it such a success?
I think when you put together faith, sports, and community, it equals the results, as they said. Just guys came together from all over the diocese. We prayed together and then transitioned into all kinds of games, sports, basketball, capture the flag, all kinds of activities just to get to know each other better and see a different part of the diocese that guys aren't familiar with. And when you bring that all together and you're praying together, anything can really happen in those moments.
For young men who are trying to discern where God is calling them, and it could be the priesthood, it could be some other vocation, why do you think having the opportunity to talk with seminarians and priests really is a positive experience?
For myself personally, down at college, it was through intramural sports and seeing seminaries interact with us that way, and seeing that they're just normal guys doing something different. And that was my first experience seeing them in anything other than prayerful mode, so to say. So for them to have that experience, to just see us in normal day-to-day activities, playing sports and also praying, and combining both of those and seeing that it is a realistic option and something that possibly they could include in their own lives.
If the young men who participated in Quo Vadis left that experience with nothing else, what are you hoping they did take with them from it?
I think just knowing that their identity as Catholic men in today's society is something needed and something that they can still have and share and bring to others when they go back to their own spots in the diocese. And I think that's a great thing that we're able to give.
Hi, I'm Tim Galliano from St. Vincent de Paul in Milford, PA. Quo Vadis was a great experience because it helps you guide. It helps guide you to where you want to go, to what God wants for you to do in life. It changed my life through many. It made me richer in my faith. It's great. Everyone should at least go to Quo Vadis if they're thinking about doing the priesthood, becoming a priest.
Hi, I'm Kenny Filer. I'm from Nativity BVM in Tunkhannock. And Quo Vadis, it definitely was a life-changing experience. What was nice about it is, like, if you weren't sure about how to ask God for your vocation, they gave you ways to ask God for your vocation, and it really just helped to try and find your vocation. And it was nice about it. Everybody had fun. It was a great time. If you're not sure about making friends, you're not really open, this experience just allows you to become that. And everyone, there's no judging. Everyone can become friends and just do whatever. It's a really good time.
We come to you now from the University of Scranton's Retreat Center here at Chapman Lake, where our diocesan seminarians have come together for their annual summer gathering. In our next segment, we'll talk with 3 of our newest seminarians as they reflect on their personal call to the priesthood. Nick, for each individual, it's a different story, but for you personally, how and when did your call to the priesthood come about?
My father was a deacon in the Catholic Church, and in 4th grade he taught me how to altar serve. And so instantly I just felt just a call to either enter the diaconate or priesthood. I never really thought much about it until I entered high school. And it was really senior year where I really felt just my heart open up, and I could just feel that I wasn't called to the diaconate. I was really called to become a priest. All my fear and anxiety went away, and I felt at peace, and it was the first thing I was ever 100% positive that God was calling me to do.
What do you think it is about the priesthood? Why does that ministry appeal to you so much?
I think the main parts that appeal to me are being able to administer the sacraments and also just bringing Jesus to the people and people to Jesus.
Nick, quite often when a young man decides that he is going to go into the seminary, family and friends might say, well, think about everything you'll be giving up, the sacrifices you'll be making. But do you necessarily look at it that way?
I don't look at it at all that way. I feel like having money or becoming a priest, just something about the priest and becoming a priest and just being able to have a connection with Jesus is just priceless.
Nick, the opportunity you're having today, the opportunity to meet with seminarians and other priests and other young men who are sharing your vocation, why is that such a valuable experience?
It's very valuable for me because it's my first year. I just graduated, and so it's nice to form a connection with some of the other guys and to know that I have people that are going through the seminary and then priests that are already ordained just to help and guide me whenever I get lost or...
When you come across a young man who's struggling about that call and wondering if God is indeed calling him to the priesthood, how do you handle that? What do you say to them?
I would say just the main thing is to pray and also to get in contact with the vocational director, Don Williams, Father Don. And he's helped me so much. And if it wasn't for him, I don't think I'd be sitting here today about to enter the seminary.
And what about your father as a role model? What kind of an impact did he have on nurturing your vocation?
He was such a big influence. He would always take me to Mass and to adoration, and we do a lot of things together because he was always involved in the church. So he's had a great impact on me and my decision.
Nick, I know it's hard to put into a few words, but looking at the priesthood, what would you say is probably the greatest joy of being a priest?
The greatest joy, I would say the greatest joy would probably be just having such a strong connection with Jesus. That's something I've always wanted to work on, And I feel like priests just, after all those years of seminary and even after ordained, they just have such a strong connection with Jesus, and I hope to do the same.
Kevin, you have had a life full of varied experiences, especially in the military. Tell me a little bit about that and how you made the transition into the seminary.
It's interesting because when I had actually first considered going into the military, I had planned to be an Army chaplain. But through a wide, strange set of circumstances, and my scholarship that I had available at the University of Scranton, I could not take theology as a major, which you needed to enter the seminary at that point in time. So I said to myself, all right, I guess it's God's way of saying, now's not the time, I need you to do this. And next thing you know, 32 years of military service passes. But the amazing thing is that there's so much of what a good military officer, a servant leader, needs to bring into the life of a priest, and certainly in the life of a seminarian, that I feel very good about that particular aspect of the transition.
What is it about the priesthood? Why are you attracted so much to that ministry?
First of all, you are part of that sacramental life of every Catholic, and that's the heart and soul of our faith. So those sacraments don't happen in a lot of cases without a priest, and that's a real tremendous calling in and of itself. And then, of course, when you look at just practical life, I mean, all those big moments in a person's life, if they are truly faithful, then the priest is somehow involved. So to see the heights of joys, to be part of those sorrows, to be part of a baptism of a new life, or laying to rest somebody who was near and dear in a family that needs consolation and needs some help, and to be part of that, to bring God's grace back into their life, is just a calling. I can't imagine there being anything higher than that.
Kevin, looking back, were there any individuals in your life who influenced your vocation to the priesthood?
The most influential would be now Father Jim Nash down in Nanticoke. He was actually Mr. Jim Nash, my English teacher at Coughlin High School. He hadn't left teaching, but he had taught a class there in the Bible as Literature when I was senior that he had a profound impact from that class, as well as also encouraging us as a class advisor, and I was a class officer, to be part of the Chrism program that was held up at the Fatima Center. So, he had given us a new look at faith, and had, even on one of my papers, wrote, hey, you show some aptitude for this that may point towards a future calling. Ask God for what He thinks about that in your particular life. And that was great advice. And sure enough, here we are getting ready to enter the seminary.
When you have an opportunity to attend a gathering such as this one with fellow seminarians, does it actually help you in your discernment?
Absolutely, Dan. This is such an extraordinary group of men of wide varieties of experiences, and just you can see tremendous talent that's here. Men that are gifted in the spirit, and gifted also with the mental and the physical and emotional capacities to really take the priesthood and make it part of people's lives in the Diocese of Scranton. And the faith is so alive in the diocese. I believe that, and it's at those particular crossroad moments that great men like this are called to be part of it. So this being my first gathering, it's just been an absolute joy and pleasure to build that sense of teamwork and a sense of brotherhood that I think we'll share for many, many years. And I look forward to this gathering and continuing, and of course for those in the future.
Kevin, obviously God has been working quietly in your life over the last several years, guiding you to this point. How grateful and blessed do you feel today?
I kind of feel even just a little emotional about it, because to be able to give thanks to God and to praise Him, and to look at how a successful military career has brought me to this point in time where now I think God is saying, you're now ready to take this step, and then this is going to make you someone who's going to be a better priest, and somebody who can help bring people to me. I look at that and say nothing but just the deepest of gratitude. Heart overfilled with joy and love for God for those opportunities, and certainly to look ahead and ask Him for the grace to persevere and continue if it is His will. Ultimately, I tell people, it's not about us, it's about God. And so if we try to conform ourselves to God's will, no matter how long it takes to get there, be it 32 years, I think if we try to, we're going to get there, and keep that heart open. So,
Jonathan, you're coming from an interesting background. You're actually giving up a law practice in order to go into the seminary. Tell me a little bit about that and why you made that decision.
Well, I opened my own law practice about 5 years ago in Kingston. I practiced for about a year as a lawyer before that. Becoming a priest is something I always thought about since I was about 6 or 7 years old. It was always something I put off until later, something I would always think about later. Before going into law school, I was praying. I prayed to God and I said, help me out here. What should I do? And I asked God if He would let me go to law school. Let me do that. And after I get out of law school, I'll seriously discern the priesthood. I made that promise to God that I would do that. So He left me alone for a while. So I went to law school, graduated law school, passed the bar, got a job out of law school, worked in Pittsburgh for a while, came home, opened the practice, and kind of forgot about that promise I had made. So a year or two goes by, things are going well, the practice is picking up, and finally I suddenly and randomly one day remember that promise I had made to Him, and I think, and I'm kind of upset because I don't want to think about the priesthood anymore. I'm thinking, I graduated law school, I passed the bar, I did all this, the whole world is in front of me, and I want to be able to take hold of it. And the question wouldn't go away. So I took about 5 minutes. I discerned quickly in 5 minutes, completely disingenuous, just a quick, slap shot discernment, and decided, nope, I'm happy where I am, I don't want to be a priest. Another year or two goes by and the question comes back again, and very seriously and very intensely comes back again, and I realized how disingenuous my promise had been, fulfilling that promise. So I decided it was time to really very seriously look at the priesthood. So I read every vocation website there was out there, and after I exhausted all of those, I went to my pastor in the confessional so that it was private, and he told me to come to him outside the confessional if I wanted and talk to him there, and then I met up with the vocation director at the time and just kept on taking step after step after step, and it felt comfortable. It felt like coming home, and every step I took was great. So I kept on taking steps until I got here.
What do you think it is? What is it about the ministry of the priesthood that appeals to you?
That's hard to put my finger on it. Everything about the priesthood is something that I think I'll enjoy and think I'll love. But it's about that relationship with God. It's about that relationship with people, a spiritual relationship with people. But it's about following God's will. And I feel like this is where He wants me to go, and I'm trying to trust Him to lead me in the right way. And every time I engage, I'm loving it. So I'm trusting in the Lord to provide for me, and I expect to be happy and fulfilled in this work.
Does an opportunity such as this gathering here at Chapman Lake help you in your own discernment?
It does. It does, because it's really a countercultural choice to become a priest now. It's really against the grain, and to be with other people that have decided to make that decision themselves, so that you feel like you're a part of a brotherhood, that you're together with them, that helps a lot, and makes you realize that maybe I too am on the right path.
Jonathan, when you have an opportunity to talk with a young man who is also struggling about where God is calling him in life, what exactly would you say to him?
When I first started this recent discernment process, my pastor, Father Joe Ivanko, he told me, the first thing he told me was to live the question. Just live the question every day. That you can't answer it yourself, and you can't answer it without going out and reaching out to the church and reaching out to the Lord in prayer. So you can't answer this question in isolation. You need to live it every day and walk with the Lord and make that decision through prayer, through interaction with the church. So just engage with it. There is a discernment process, and it is a process, and there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. So you're not going to be spinning your wheels trying to figure out this question. The church will help you, and if you give yourself up to the Lord and allow Him to help you, that question will be answered for you.
How blessed do you feel today that God has brought you to this point?
Great, great. Every day I'm happier. Every day, the deeper I get into this and the closer I get to actually going down into the seminary at the end of August, I can't wait. I'm very blessed. I'm very excited. It'll be a long road, but I'm well on my way.
On Monday, July 13th, hundreds of golfers and sponsors gathered at the Blue Ridge Trail Golf Club in Mountaintop to take part in the 6th annual Vocations Golf Classic. As we're about to see in this next segment, the tournament was another huge success, raising over $77,000 for an endowment fund, a fund that benefits those men in our diocese who are answering God's call to the priesthood.
Well, the best part of this tournament for today is God has blessed us with this wonderful day. Secondly, there's an outpouring of support. The golfers are having a great day. It's an opportunity for the seminarians to meet people from throughout the diocese who are not only financially supporting them, but prayerfully encouraging them to stay true to the commitment to seminary formation and ultimately to serve our local church as a priest.
I would like to thank you for joining us today, for supporting our efforts to enhance a vocation perspective in the Diocese of Scranton, and to invite men to join us in service of our church.
The monies that are raised are helping us in our vocation efforts to educate, to invite additional participation in discernment and seminary formation, and also we are trying to help address the issue of financial debt. As young people approach the seminary, many times they have student loans that have to be addressed. So we don't want anybody held back from participating in seminary formation because of debt, and so we're trying to help alleviate some of that pressure. Today we have 149 golfers who are here, and so it's not just the golfers who are here, but we have a lot of support from parishes, from businesses. We have all kinds of sponsors who have really helped to make this probably one of the most successful golf tournaments in our area.
Well, being a Catholic, this gives a chance to give back to the church and also the future of the church with the young seminarians coming on board. You meet them, you see them, get to interact with them, and give them a feeling that it's a family that they're joining.
Yes.
Well, this is my second year being part of this golf tournament, and it's amazing to meet all the people from throughout the diocese. Their generosity, obviously financially, but also their offers of supportive prayers, and just their mindfulness of vocations. It's a really positive thing for us in the middle of the summer to take a fun break, to meet new people, and to know that there's prayerful support from everyone from throughout the diocese.
We do the golf tournament every year. This is our 6th year, and I must say it's a wonderful event because of all the support we get. We have a wonderful committee made up of people from all over the diocese, priests, lay people. We have support from parishioners at all levels, and we also, it's wonderful to work with the vocations office. Like as a development person, I have the opportunity to work with the vocations office to learn more about vocations and all the work that they're doing. But this event is always energizing for me personally because people are so happy to support our seminarians. This is a cause very dear to everyone's heart, you know, to help our young people, to help men who are discerning, have made the commitment to the seminary life, who want to be priests. We really do want to support them financially, spiritually, in every way we can. So this event, for me, is just a wonderful experience.
Last month, a group of teenagers from around the diocese took part in the annual summer mission experience sponsored by the Pontifical Mission Society's office. As they reflect back on their recent trip to the Diocese of Jackson, Mississippi, these young missionaries explain how it has changed their lives and how they have truly experienced what it means to be Christ for others. Father, this was your second mission trip. You were in Eureka, California a few years ago, and now Mississippi. What was this experience like for you?
This experience for me was really incredible because, first of all, this was my first mission trip as a priest. And I had the privilege of going as the spiritual director for this incredibly fine group of high school students from our diocese. I think, like it always is, it was very powerful to encounter the people that we served in their moment of need. And for me, it was particularly transformative. I got to celebrate Mass with and for our students. And as part of the mission experience, we spent time with the Missionaries of Charity in Memphis, Tennessee. And I got to celebrate Mass with and for the sisters and our participants as well. The experience was really enormous because I think there are many dimensions to mission. Obviously, there's the dimension of serving the poor, but what's significant about serving the poor is that the activity, the work, quote unquote, flows out of our experience of prayer, a prayer structured and centered in the Eucharist as well as the Liturgy of the Hours, and a contemplative approach to looking at our day to see where we encountered the face of Christ. And it was out of that prayer experience, it's out of that contemplative posture that the work flows. So in a very beautiful way, they really got to be, I mean, literally speaking, the hands, the feet, the eyes, the heart of Christ.
Over the years, I've had the opportunity to talk with a number of these young people who have taken advantage of the mission experience, and many of them refer to it as a life-changing experience. Do you witness that? What kind of an impact do you think these mission trips are having on our young people?
I've witnessed two groups. In 2007, when I was a seminarian, we went to Eureka, California, and then just a few weeks ago in Walls, Mississippi. What I have witnessed are two things. First of all, their configuration to and knowledge of Jesus himself. They encounter Christ in the poor, they encounter Christ in prayer, they encounter Christ in one another. So there's a deepening of their spirituality. Not only that, there's this beautiful sense of giving that they bring to it because they just work like dogs and they have fun doing it, and they're changed by serving the poor. They're formed by helping those in need. They're changed, they're transformed by giving to those who need it. One of our participants said something very profound. At the end of the day, we have what we call the face of Christ. Where did you encounter the face of Christ? And we all go around and talk about that. And one of our students said something so profound. She said, "I feel like we're receiving more than we're giving." So that type of transformation really does change them in a very, very beautiful and very profound way. They kind of mature a little bit over the trip, which is also fun to see. They're less afraid, and toward the end of the trip, you could see the difference from the beginning of the trip, because at the end of the trip, their sleeves are rolled up and they're just diving in, helping people, working wherever they can. My personal experience is also an experience of transformation. I went as a seminarian early on in my seminary formation, and it was an experience that I drew from all throughout my seminary experience, and I still draw from that first mission trip, even now as a priest. Now, to be able to have gone as a priest, it's equally as transformative and equally as giving for me.
During the course of the time that you were in Mississippi, what were some of the key projects that you were working on?
We were in two groups. One group went to the little town of Byhalia, Mississippi, and there was a particular area of this town that has some significant problems, and there was a woman's house that had been completely destroyed by vandalism. And the one group went and finished the completing work on rebuilding that house. And they worked in extreme conditions with no air conditioning and 105-degree heat. I was not part of that group. The group that I was with, we were in a town of, we were in the town of Byhalia, Mississippi, and we went to a woman's house. It was a mobile home, and we had to replace part of the flooring and subfloor in that house, as well as do a lot of plumbing things. That was the first part of the trip. What we did, the second part of the trip, was we drove up into Memphis every morning and worked with the Missionaries of Charity. They run a women's shelter, and they also run a daycare for underprivileged children in some of the more challenging parts of Memphis. Not the neat parts of Memphis, but some of the more difficult parts of Memphis.
Over the years, with all these young people that I've met, I've always said that these young missionaries represent the best of the best. The fact that they're willing to give up part of their summer vacation so they can do service work for others, what kind of an inspiration do you think it's having on you, their witness of faith?
Well, I'm incredibly inspired, and I think you make an excellent point that when we look at the students who step forward to go on this mission trip, you're exactly right. That is the absolute best of the best. I mean, these are all, I can speak only for the students that I just came off of mission with, our group. They're all stars. They're smart, they're funny, they're hardworking, they're sensitive. it's really inspiring to see them encountering Christ, particularly in the poor. And again, when they sit back and they have these moments where they realize what they've done and what they've encountered and what they've experienced, just to see this like epiphany almost on their faces at the end of the day, it's really incredible. For me, it's inspiring that the work of the church is young and the work of the church is alive and the work of the church is as engaging as it's ever been. I mean, they were the church in action. They were Christ in action in the world. There were moments where I just sat back in amazement of what they were doing. I was inspired. I mean, it really gave me a lot of zeal and energy for my ministry as a priest.
Alexis, I know they kept you pretty busy when you were down in Mississippi. Tell me about some of the work you were involved with and maybe some of the projects that you in particular were interested in.
So the first week, we did more of construction work. Out of the 7 of us, we were split into 2 groups to 2 different work sites. My group went to Tunica, Mississippi, and we were in one of the poor areas of that specific area. We were working on a home for this elderly woman. She's in her 70s, so she's not too old, but what happened to her was she went to go help her sick mother, for several years, maybe like 10 years, and through that time, people robbed her house completely, took all of her flooring, wiring, you name it, it was gone. But on top of that, they went back and destroyed everything for no reason. It was just very terrible. And when you meet her, you feel even more terrible because she was the sweetest person, such a gentle heart. But what we were doing while we were there, our main project was putting all of the flooring in. There was about 5 rooms, so we put different, wood flooring, tiles, etc. But they're currently, I think they're actually recently, she's moving in, and this has been a year project, but she's been waiting 12 years for it. So we're really looking forward to seeing the photos of the finished product. But I just think that was so great because, when we met her and we could see, I could see in my group, everyone was just so passionate to really help get it done for her because so much wrong was done to her, but she's such a kind person. So that's what we were doing there.
As you reflect back on the experience in Mississippi, why was it such a joy to be part of that group? And what do you think you got out of this experience?
I think one of the main things of the whole experience, whether it was in Tunica or in Memphis when we were working with the Missionaries of Charity, I think I speak for all of us when a main aspect of it was the people we encountered. That was the most eye-opening thing. I knew I would meet a lot of strangers, a lot of people that, obviously I've never been to Mississippi, but I wasn't expecting to meet so many kind people who really, you do see the face of Christ in, as we reflect every night on the mission trip. Everybody has such special moments with the people we met, whether it was from at my work site, our contractor on the site, or whether it was all the missionaries of charity, all the sisters there, or whether it was in especially the children we were helping. You saw so much light, even though these kids were coming from the poorest parts, you don't know what they went home to after, noon, after they had lunch. To see them, not act like anything was wrong and to, have fun with you and they didn't even know us. It made the experience so life-changing and enlightening that I think when I came back, I was just so happy that I couldn't stop smiling. It was just that type of thing. So I think meeting the people, and also, feeling like you're just helping other people who are in such terrible times in their life, and they're trying to, overcome that. For example, the woman we're helping with her home, that I think, just knowing as you're doing these small things, it's life-changing for them. So I think, just receiving all of that, it was just so great.
Alexis, what kind of an impact do you think this mission experience has had on your faith?
I think it has tremendously impacted me spiritually. Basically, every single day, it revolved around our prayer, around Mass, and I think that was such a great aspect of the mission. I think, it helped us, because we did morning, evening, and night prayer through the Liturgy of the Hours, while also having Mass every day. And I think that's so important because I just think our faith, God, I think we were just always under that, inspiration throughout everything we did every day. So starting the day off with prayer, you know, we had what we were, you know, what scripture we were reading in our mind the whole day. Starting off and ending that way every day, I think it just reminded us of why we were there. You know, why were we sent here this summer? You know, I just think it truly just helped us stay on that path and, you know, be excited each day of what journey we would be on.
Alexis, I use that term quite often when I'm talking to young people like yourself, the idea of a life-changing experience. Do you think that has been the case for you? Have you come back to this country, or have you come back to this area a changed person?
Absolutely. I think my family and my friends could tell that immediately when I came back. I think having all of those moments, like I was saying, with all those different people and new people we met, having all the experiences, helping all those people, I don't see how it couldn't change a person. You know, seeing how people react when, you know, a kind heart is touching them, seeing all the kids when we were helping them, especially seeing, you know, the woman we were helping with her home, she was crying when she was walking through our work site. You know, we're always going to carry that with us throughout our whole life, you know, with whatever we do. Even when I'm home now and I see something that reminds me of Mississippi, I think about the entire experience, and it, you know, it makes me happy, you know, and positive throughout the whole day. You know, I think I will always think about it every day, and it will, you know, change how different my perspective is now. You know, I see the face of Christ in so many things now that, you know, you don't pay attention to, and, you know, you're so busy, so many distractions. So I think it's life-changing in that sense that my perspective will be different from now on.
William, as you reflect back on your trip to Mississippi, what experiences stand out most in your mind?
A lot of things originally stand out thinking back. I mean, it was 12 days. I was part of a group. We had 4 kids altogether, counting me, and it was in Byhalia, Mississippi. And for the first week, we went to this job site, and this woman, her house was 2 trailers bumped together, tore down the wall in the center, very shoddy construction work. And the tiling in her house was coming up. I mean, the bathroom was just disgusting. It was all torn up. We just needed to go in there and fix it. When we were going through it, it was humbling to see going from where we are up here and to thinking, it's America, everything's good here. And then when you go to the south and you see certain areas, it's like a third world country down there. And when we were helping out this woman, the looks she would give us, she was always smiling. She was a very happy woman. She had a very beautiful smile. She was in her 60s. And the house that was built, it was almost as if the construction people didn't really care how long it was going to be there. And the amount of work we had to put in, of course we were happy to do it. I mean, it was a very good experience to go down there and put that work into this woman's house. But it was a very changing experience to see how much we impacted her life.
Here you are giving up part of your summer vacation in order to be of service to other people. What do you think you personally got out of this experience?
Originally, when I saw this mission experience, I decided to take up on it because I'm currently discerning the priesthood. And I had it narrowed down between diocesan and missionary. And I was looking for ways to kind of learn about each one more and more. And the mission trip came up, so I said, worth a shot, you know? It's only 2 weeks. What could go wrong? So I signed up for this thing. I was so worried about it. We got down there, and the people who I'd only known for 3 days beforehand felt like family. It was a beautiful thing that we did down there. And going through the whole thing, I grew a lot closer with the prayer time. We prayed, like 5 times a day. We were all so close together. We built a family, but at the same time spiritually, it was almost as if like my spirit grew twice to what it was. And for me, not only that, it was for me finding a way to discern where I'm going to go in life. And currently I do feel that I'm supposed to go a missionary way just because of this trip.
Based on your experiences through this mission trip, do you think you came home a changed person? Are you looking at life a little differently?
I definitely feel that I've come back a lot more changed than before. Maturity-wise, definitely. Spiritually, yeah. But somewhere coming back and seeing how we have it here, and although where I come from, Honesdale, we aren't the richest place around, But comparing it to where we were in Mississippi, it was almost as if we were the richest around. The conditions the people had to live in. And I'm glad I went and at least fixed up one woman's house so there's one less person down there living in that sort of poverty.
William, if you had the opportunity to talk to young people about this trip who may be considering it but are still a little reluctant, maybe they're a little shy, whatever the case may be, what do you think you would say to them to encourage them to at least give it a shot?
When you go out somewhere and you step out of your comfort zone, you grow spiritually and definitely like morally. So it's not going to hurt to go on a mission trip. I mean, the one we went on, yeah, nothing bad happened, but it was way better to go out and experience than not to experience it at all. Yes, I lost 2 weeks of my summer, but in that time I grew more than I think I would have through an entire year.
On July 17th, several hundred people representing the local law enforcement community packed St. Peter's Cathedral here in Scranton to attend the Mass of Christian Burial for Scranton police officer John Wilding. In our closing segment, we'd like to share with you some excerpts from that service for a man who made the ultimate sacrifice in serving his city.
We gather here with heavy hearts, filled with a profound sense of shock and sadness. Despite these raw emotions, we gather here so that our faith may sustain us during this devastating experience. Our faith helps us to discover meaning and purpose in this very difficult moment. Our faith is certainly a gift from God. However, moments like this tragic event requires us to cling to the words of Jesus, where Jesus reminds all of his followers that he is the way, the truth, and the life. He is the one who promises eternal life to all of his followers. Because Jesus is risen and ascended to the Father, we live in hope that where he has gone, one day we shall go and enjoy the fullness of life God has promised to all of his followers. But it is in this moment of profound sadness that we need to acknowledge our pain and honestly admit that our faith is being tested. This is a time where we find ourselves confused and pondering many questions that will be left unanswered. We try to come to terms with the reality of John's death, and we struggle to find comfort as we mourn the loss of one of Scranton's finest. John's death is a vivid reminder to all of us that our lives are fragile and all too short. Consider the second beatitude. Blessed are those who mourn. People who do not normally think of mourning as a blessing. It's a burden. But with the coming of the kingdom of heaven, mourning becomes a blessing because the mourners will be comforted. The implication is God himself will do the comforting. The affliction of mourning allows the blessing of a profound relationship with God to deepen. That is a blessing in the time of pain, suffering, and sorrow. Although the primary purpose of the Beatitudes is to declare the blessings given by God's kingdom, as we step into God's kingdom, we hope to become more like those named blessed, more meek, more merciful, more hungry for righteousness, more apt to make peace. I venture to say that each and every one of us here in this cathedral today, and the countless people that watch this Mass televised at home, would say that John was certainly one of God's blessings. A blessing to us as a son, husband, father, brother, friend, and police officer. perhaps today we can add the 9th Beatitude. Blessed are we who are privileged to know John Wilding, for we have been greatly enriched. I'm certain that John would be full of gratitude for the outpouring of support given to his family and his fellow officers during this tragic time. He would want us to continue our journey and be committed to serving one another. John was keenly aware that his service as a police officer was filled with danger and uncertainty, but he also knew that it was filled with joy and fulfillment. We only need to look at the life of Jesus to understand this fulfillment more completely. Much like your profession, as Scranton police officers and law enforcement professionals, Jesus' ministry was not easy. He was embraced by many, and his followers were committed to his mission. But he also faced opposition, controversy, and rejection. Your mission, like Jesus's, is about providing compassion for those in need, promoting peace during times of conflict, and working tirelessly for justice. Like Jesus, you are on a mission to make this world a better place.
It's with great pride and honor that I stand before you today. And talk about my friend. The more time I spent with John, the more I really got to know what kind of a man he was. He was more than just a great cop. John was a family man. He was a dedicated husband to his wife, Kristen, and father to his 2 children, Lola and Sydney. Kristen, he loved you and the children very much. If John wasn't talking about police work, he was talking about his family, the kids, what they were doing, funny things they were saying, talking about his wife, what was going on, what they're going to be doing on their days off. John was a family man, first and foremost. He would tell me before he was hired here with Scranton Police Department, he would work 2, 3 jobs, working multiple shifts in a row, and how it was a struggle at times to make ends meet, and how grateful he was to be a Scranton police officer. John didn't work to become rich. He worked because he loved his family and wanted nothing but the best for them. But no matter how much John was working, didn't matter where John was working, he gave his family and friends the one thing that money can never buy. He gave them his love, his kindness, and his friendship. Chief Graziano spoke a little bit before about Officer Wilding's work ethic and how he would not call off his scheduled days off. That work ethic is the one thing that made me mad once at John. Last summer, me and my wife have an 80s party. And we're themed 80s party, and you're there to dress up in a costume from the 80s. So John shows up as a Karate Kid. And I was Tom Cruise from Top Gun. So the party goes on. It was an afternoon party, and John turns to me and says, "Hey, Corporal, I have to go." "Where are you going?" "I have to go to work tonight." "So you're not going? You're calling off?" I said, "No, we're not. I gotta go." So other officers there find out that John's trying to skip out on us and call off. And they all start chiming in also. "You're not going." Chants of rookie call off were going on at my party, led by Sergeant Sharon. So John wasn't going to have it. He was going to work. Until Kristen turns to him and says, "John, you're calling off." So John, being the good husband he was, says, "Okay." Now, the one problem we have there is John turns to me and says, "Corporal," I said, "Call me Tom, we're at an 80s party." He goes, "Okay, Corporal, I have a problem. I don't know how to call off." "Who do I call? And once I call them, what do I say to them?" So we dial up the phone, and we call in for John to call him off. We walk him through the steps. But that's who John was. He loved going to work every day. He truly did. He felt that he'd be letting people down if he didn't go in, because he knew he was a protector of the weak and the innocent. And he died so people of this city could feel protected from criminals while they slept peacefully at night. John has made the ultimate sacrifice. It is our solemn duty as Scranton police officers to make sure Kristen and her children are never forgotten. The last few days I've had the honor to speak to John's mother, Mary. The first thing she says to me is, John always spoke of you and how he wanted to be the type of cop that you are. Well, Mrs. Wilding, it's me who wants to be the type of cop your son John was.
Being a police officer is also like being part of an extended family. When one hurts, we all hurt. The loss of Officer John James Wilding has left a hole in his family at home, as well as his family at the Scranton Police Department. However, we will and must honor Officer John James Wilding. Officer Wilding and his family are part of our Scranton Police family, and he and his family will be part of our family forever. Officer John James Wilding is a hero. But it's not only how he died that make him a hero, it's how he lived. John's family and friends already know what an outstanding husband, father, son, and brother he was. But who was Officer John James Wilding? From John's own words, being a Scranton police officer was a dream come true. Being a Scranton police officer was second only to his family. Being a Scranton police officer is not just what John did. It's not just what it wasn't a job to him. It's who he was. From the day John began working as a Scranton police officer, he began making a difference. Working as a young community beat patrol officer is where John excelled. He truly understood the concept of community policing and seeing the bigger picture. He knew when to be stern, and he knew when to be a mentor to someone. In the time that he was with us, he's made a profound impact on his community as well as his Scranton Police family. From the moment I met John in his initial interview with the department, I knew he was a special person. And I knew he would be the type of police officer that we would want in the ranks of the Scranton Police Department. He was sworn in on April 15, 2014. He quickly gained the respect of his community and his fellow officers. Everyone was impressed with the positive, friendly manner in which he carried himself. He was the epitome of what every police officer should be.
Our Holy Father, Pope Francis, recently offered words of encouragement to a group of young people. He was referencing the difficulties and the challenges we face in our complicated world. Listen to Pope Francis's powerful words. He said, "Difficulties and trials are a part of the path that leads us to God's glory. Therefore, we must not be discouraged. We have the power of the Holy Spirit to overcome these trials." The Pope ended his comments by telling them to stay steadfast in faith and persevere with the mission God has entrusted to you. So Kristen, Mary, Patrice, stay steadfast in faith and be open to the graces that God will provide to you. To all the Scranton police officers and other law enforcement professionals, stay the course. May you continue to protect those you are called to serve. May you do so with fidelity, honor, and courage. Today, although our hearts are heavy with grief, may we celebrate a life well lived and find peace as we remember the many happy and special times we shared with our brother and our friend John. May we carry on all the good that he has taught us and keep his memory alive by providing services to those we encounter. When we see a tragedy such as this senseless loss of life, it causes us to stop and take pause in our own lives and appreciate the little things that sometimes we take for granted because of the busyness of our own lives. We have been privileged to see a community come together during this time of need. May that support never cease. We now have the undaunting task of saying farewell to John. We return John to God not with negative emotions, but with a profound sense of gratitude. John did indeed make an impact on our city, and he did indeed make this world a better place. May we remember Officer John Wilding for the wonderful person that he was, the proud husband and father, the faithful friend, and the dedicated Scranton police officer. The greatest disservice that we can do to John is to only focus on his death. We need to focus our attention on the life that he lived, the blessings that he gave to us, the blessings that he expects us to pay forward. Eternal rest grant unto him, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon him. May he rest in peace. May his soul and all the souls of the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace.
That's all the time we have for now. On behalf of the staff at Catholic Television, I'd like to thank you for joining us today and invite you to tune us in again next month for our next edition of Our Faith, Our Diocese.